Hello friends, welcome back to Cramps and Chaos. Before we move on with today's chapter, I have a disclaimer for you. This podcast is for information purposes only, and it's not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Cramps and Chaos is a platform where people affected by endometriosis can share their stories. These views and experiences are personal and may not reflect those of all individuals living with endometriosis. There aren't any right or wrong answers, everyone's journey is different. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today's guest of yet another Cramps and Chaos chapter is Hanna, an amazing illustrator, 2D animator and BAFTA-nominated animation director from London. During today's episode, we'll chat about her journey with endometriosis and how it's impacted her life, heteronormativity within the medical system, hormones, mental health, and more. Enjoy.
On Monday, I just spent the day in the bedroom and I didn't want to see sunlight because it just made me so angry.
Oh man, yeah, I know. It's really tough, really tough. Also, slightly problematic where you are. I feel like you've kind of always got sunlight, haven't you?
Yeah, true. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, Hanna.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Would you tell us a bit about your period history? So when did you first get your period and if it was really bad from the beginning?
Yeah, I think, God, if I can remember now, I think I got my period. I got my period kind of around probably 13, 14. And I don't recall really having an issue with my periods during my teenage years. I think it wasn't until I was in my early 20s and I was at uni, and I think I definitely experienced really bad periods and really bad headaches. And I think at that point I just thought, oh, I'm just someone who suffers from bad period pain, and but it was bad as in I wasn't going into uni for the day, curled up on the floor in like the fetal position bad, but just sort of, you end up normalizing it. And then, in my mid-20s, it just progressively got more extreme, more symptoms, more pain, really started impacting my day-to-day. And that's when I went and spoke to a gynecologist and got it checked out. That's when they were basically like, we think you've got, well, it took a little bit of time, but they were like, we think you've got a form of endometriosis. But yeah, so that was fun times for that.
Good memories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How did endometriosis impact your life until you got diagnosed?
Oh man, it's just the way it always has and does now, I think. But I think I didn't even know what endometriosis was at the time, so I think that made it so much worse. And even when they said to me I've got endometriosis, I think I just thought I just still thought, okay, it's just bad periods. I didn't really understand what that meant, and I think at the time it impacted me in a way that my hormones leading up to my period, like I basically felt like an absolute crazy person. I was like, I am on a wild roller coaster here, and just all over the place. And like, when you're in your mid-20s, you just don't have that kind of, you don't even have the understanding of your own kind of mental health, or I certainly didn't at that point. And then you throw in endometriosis into the mix and you're just like, wow, this is sending me all over the place. So I think it really affected me on an emotional level and on a physical level. So it was just headaches, loads of pain, staying in bed. And that has just really like essentially ramped up over the years.
Yeah. So I imagine that they, when you got diagnosis, like they just threw the kind of like word endometriosis and didn't really explain really what it was. And
no, not at all. They were kind of like, yep, we think you've got endometriosis and you can have an operation or not, basically. And I was just like, well, I don't really want to have an operation. Even in terms of explaining what the operation was, what happens, what the procedure is, the aftercare, like that just seemed to be left out of the conversation. And for me, I just heard operation, you know, this seems very invasive. It seems very extreme for like, yeah, for me at the time, it felt like the amount of pain I was experiencing didn't sort of tally up to having an operation. And I think I just was like, I think I'd just rather manage it on my own in a way. And I wasn't remotely informed about any of it really.
Was that public or private?
Yeah, that was NHS. That was NHS. And I mean, the gynecologist I saw was just like really bad. And I mean, not that they've got much better, but I think even seeing a male gynecologist in your mid-20s, you feel quite vulnerable anyway. And they were, I felt like it was just not, it was very dismissive about the diagnosis, about the fact it's a disease. Like, I don't know, the whole frame of it was just, I don't know. He seemed so, like, he suggested that I go on the pill and then, or have the coil. But then he kind of like started backpedaling, was like, oh, but you know, I know we wouldn't want it to affect your slim figure. And I was thinking, I was like, this is nuts. So like, why? And you know what it's like in the moment. You're just like, yeah,
sure.
And then you get out. You're like, wait a minute, like that doesn't seem great. Yeah, so you're like, oh man, I should have said this. But yeah, I think just like, the thing of like, why you that's not what you should be fixating on right now. You should be fixating on my well-being, my physical well-being, my mental well-being, not my like figure. So it just didn't really feel like it was being taken seriously, and probably because just no one really knew anything about it. So it was just like, well, the pill or have an abortion.
I understand that. And to be honest, like there's so many complications within taking the pill that just commenting on the figure is, I mean, I get that, like it's a thing, like gaining weight, but there's worse.
And I guess it's kind of fine to talk about potential side effects, but to kind of really steer someone off that, like, or to kind of make it all about your
physical appearance,
which is straight crazy, you know, like, and I think and also like you say, there's so many side effects of the pill. I feel like we're only just really even knowing the side effects of taking the pill long term, and because I'm gay, I didn't need to be on the pill for contraceptive reasons. So for me, it was it felt like an even bigger decision in a way to be on it. Like it was, and I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely like a mad control freak. So I was like, it doesn't really go hand in hand with like taking stuff and not really knowing what's going on in your bod. So I was kind of like, I feel like I want to understand what my hormones are doing, like as a base level. And I still don't understand I'm like nearly 40 and I'm like, I don't know what's going on in there. Like I didn't even know who to speak to, which is crazy. Like, you know, like 15 years later, I'm kind of none the wiser.
Definitely. I think that should be number one discussion when, I agree. I think talking about the pill, it's an option. For some people, it's a better option than others.
Totally. And it works for loads of people. And I'm 100% not against anyone taking anything. Like I'm like, if it improves your life, if it kind of makes you feel more stable, absolutely go for it.
Yeah, go for it. But I think the prime conversation should be your hormones. Like, how's your hormones? Are you someone that could possibly benefit from the pill, or is that gonna destroy you emotionally? Because I think there's definitely maybe like things that could be done, or discussions that, you know, could be have had.
Totally. And I think the thing is with the pill is whether you've got endometriosis or not, it affects, like, I have so many friends who are affected by the pill emotionally or physically, and you know, and there's so many different types of the pill. I think the problem I had was every solution that was presented to me felt like it created like 20 more issues, and it's really, as anyone knows who has anything like endometriosis, is so exhausting. I think when you're then, when the solution then feels like another challenge, you're like, oh, I just I don't have the energy right now. I'm sort of tired of thinking about it, or whatever it is.
For sure. Like there's times where making a decision, I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really feel like even your decision to make. There should be more of an explanation of why someone should have an operation, or where the operation is taking place, or what the operation
Totally.
is for, what's the consequences. I think if there was more guidance, maybe maybe that would help with feeling you constantly have to advocate for yourself. You constantly have to be alert and ask a million questions, but sometimes you just want to get the fuck out the doctor's room.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because you're often not always treated. I don't know. I just feel like there's this. I can't think of many times where I feel like someone's responded in like a GP space or otherwise where they're like, this is awful, and we need to look into that. I don't feel like it's taken that seriously, and again, I don't think that's the fault of the person you're seeing. I think it's just a lack of information in general. It's just missing from
Yeah,
from speaking to a GP.
I think there's the research, and there's more information in terms of, I mean, more than before, but sometimes depending on what doctor you meet, for sure there's a lack of willing to communicate and say how is it, but I wonder, because last time that we spoke you said that you also went private at some point.
Yeah.
And did you see a difference? Could it be something to do with time, lack of time?
Yeah. To be honest, I thought, right, I paid like 900 quid to go private, and I was like, okay, this is going to be good. I'm going to get some answers. And I got to say, like, I left and was like, I didn't really feel any. I feel like in terms of explaining what happens with the operation in more detail, like that was all there.
Mm-hmm.
And like the percent of, like it's like a 70% chance of it working, or like, and again, I don't even know what that figure is based on entirely, because it's so hard for them to know from one person to the next where endometriosis is in the body. But I think, I did leave, and I was like, I don't know whether that was much better. And again, the guy who was seeing me, I really didn't love his like bedside manner. I don't know. I don't know. I think I left and felt disappointed and was like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I didn't feel like empowered, and I didn't feel like cool. Like, okay, I've got this information. I'm going to go away and make a decision. I was just like, well, I don't really want to I still don't want to have an operation. So like, where does that leave me? And also the crazy thing is since then, through my partner's friend, who happens to be trained as an endometriosis nurse, I got more information sort of secondhand through sort of casual conversations that she ended up having, than through that. That was a sort of turning point for me, where they were like, oh yeah, it's information of the body, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, wait, my mom, I was like, wait, hang on, what? Inflammation of the body? And I was like, how am I only just, I mean, yeah, I could probably have done a deeper dive on the research front, but I was like, how has this not come up, I don't know, across the like 10 to 15 people I've spoken to across how many years? Like, I don't think anyone's ever used the word inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
or like diet, or it's just, and you're just like, well, or even hormones. Like, no one talks about hormones. I'm like, hello, like this is, like why are we not talking about this? And and I've noticed as well as I've got older, it definitely starts, like, your hormones are obviously naturally changing, and then my endometriosis is changing with it. So you're just like, it's hard to sort of keep up with it in a way.
Mm-hmm. How are you seeing your endometriosis changing with age?
I'm seeing like different symptoms. Like, the last year or so, I'd say I started getting really bad migraines. I've always had really bad headaches and migraines, but they've gone into like a level where I have like aura, like where it starts affecting my eyes. And that's never happened to me.
Man, that's horrible.
It's nuts. And then some months I've had vertigo, never suffered from vertigo. And I looked that up, and it can be related to a surge in estrogen, and like a lot of menopausal women experience vertigo because they're having these mad estrogen highs and lows. So that is just like another set of symptoms to kind of manage each month. But
Yeah, I remember like last time we talked about these the vertigos and estrogen, and I didn't know. I always
yeah.
had vertigos during my period, and
Oh, really?
especially in
Yeah.
ovulation, I would like faint, and I never knew. And I did ask a couple of times to my gynecologist back then. And with age, me too, like with the period, I can hardly getting in bed because of pain, but also the vertigos. If I get out of bed, I'm like,
Yeah, I know.
everything spinning.
I know, and it's really weird because I get up and I'm like, am I imagining this, or it's like everything's slightly like feeling like it's leaning this way, and you know, as if our periods impact our lives so much with work anyway. And then when you're like, you know, obviously we're both animators and spend a lot of time on screens, so it's like you then can't be on a screen at all, obviously, because your eyes and head are like, oh man. So yeah, and then that adds to your stress and worry because you're like, oh my god, which obviously is bad for inflammation. So you're like, it's just like, oh my god, it's this constant cycle. Because one feeding the other.
So how do you connect anxiety, inflammation, and hormones?
Oh man, it's like they're literally just like all hanging out, having a party in my body. That they're like very connected, and yeah,
besties.
They're literally they're having a lovely time. I think I've noticed my anxiety. I mean, I'm definitely an anxious person anyway. I probably would be whether I had crazy periods or not. But I noticed there's no doubt that the week before. The whole week before I'm actually on my period, my anxiety is absolutely ramped up to the point that it makes me feel like agoraphobic. Like I become just so my whole body is so tightly wound. Like I can feel the tension in my shoulders, I can feel the tension in my neck, and I can feel the anxiety just sort of building. And even though I know what's happening, I'm like, this is 100% my hormones. Like it's like clockwork for me. You just have no control over it. Like you can be like, I know I'm being an absolute like insane person. Like I know I'm overreacting to everything. I know I've got like anger basically, like like moving around my body, and then you're like, and then it's gone. Like it actually goes for me as soon as I come. Pretty much as soon as when I'm on my period, I don't really experience that anxiety. It's more the lead up for me.
Yeah. How do you, is there anything that you avoid when you're in those moments? Is there any particular trigger that really triggers you?
Yeah, I think it makes me feel like I don't want to socialize like big time. I feel like I don't really have social anxiety at any other point except around my period, and I feel like my brain has like I've got nothing to talk about. And I'm just like I don't want to be in big group situations. I feel like that's what I avoid. I tend to kind of do one-on-one things if I do sociable things, and stuff that's very local to me, because I get like like even going on transport feels really challenging. And it's just like everything feels like it's like there's a kind of block in front of me, like it just and I have to think about it. Like I really have to think about everything I'm doing and planning in a way I just wish I didn't have to.
Yeah, I remember that we talked about the travel anxiety, because I can
man, it's
so much.
And it's so nice to. I mean, I don't want you to be suffering from that, obviously, but it's like it is really reassuring.
I know what you mean.
To hear that someone else is experiencing that, because you're just like, well, I guess I'm a freak that can't get on a train for like 10 minutes, but like, yeah, then you're like, oh, this is actually being affected by, yeah, it's by something.
Yeah.
It feels like a chemical change for sure. But that's the
Yes.
only way I can think to explain it. It feels like it's like a switch that goes off.
It's a switch for sure. Like, it's crazy because sometimes it happened to me that from one day to the other, I can't do something.
Yeah,
And
totally.
you know, when you think about your previous life, which was just
Oh
yesterday,
man.
and you're like, man, yesterday I could get on a train, and today,
Yeah,
just the idea of getting on a train, it's like, no,
yeah,
impossible.
100%. Like totally that.
It's
Like,
crazy.
and also it's the difference between if there's something you have to do, like if I have to go in central London for a meeting, or like it's the difference between having a really wild amount of anxiety and worry leading up to that, and kind of a lot of preparation, like like and maybe and like not sleeping because I'm worrying about, like, and then other times of the month, I'm not thinking twice about that in the same way, or not nearly as much. So yeah, it's exhausting, and it starts to take over, I think, as well.
Yeah. How, because we work in the same industry, how do
Hmm.
you manage work? Because sometimes it can be hard to be around
Yeah,
people, and I
for
mean,
sure.
for us, not some, we don't have to deal with a lot of people.
Yeah. We've got the opposite problem where we're like, is anyone out there? Anyone at all? Yeah. I mean, it's easier now that I can work at home for sure. Like, that's one thing that works in my favor, I guess, because, if I lie down for half an hour, or, go and sit in the garden for a little bit and just like take a breather, it's not such a big deal. And, I'm lucky that I work with a lot of women, so they get it. And I think I work with a lot of people who actually do understand endometriosis, and they're sympathetic to that. So I kind of feel like I'm luckier than a lot of people, probably, from a work point of view. I can say I've got really bad period pains, I've got a migraine, I gotta go, I'm out, guys, and that's okay most of the time. But I guess with freelance, the thing you can't control are things like deadlines. So if you've got a deadline looming, and it's kind of like you can't really get out of that, then those are the really challenging moments.
Definitely.
And I try to, like, I've got like the little period tracker on my phone, so I kind of try to look at that. Like, if I'm giving a schedule and I can see that there's like some sort of delivery due on the week of my period, I'm like, we got to push this, guys, like, or bring it forward, like, because I just have to be really mindful. I've learned that, like, I can't just push through in those moments.
Yeah.
And it's okay to just, bring that up, I guess, and say that's not going to work for me.
Is it something that you kind of worked through the years?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure it's the same for you, right? Like, just you're like, no, still just pushing through.
I'm getting better in my 30s.
Yeah, I think just learning. I think for me, realizing that it's not no job is worth just like destroying yourself over.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just realizing as I've got older that, yeah, I don't really care. I'm just like, well, you know what? Like, if this 10-second ident for social media can't go live like today, does it really matter? But I'm sure my producers would probably like absolutely despair hearing this. But yeah, I think I've just got like, I'm better at zooming out and being like, okay, yeah, you can really get so in it with work, I think, and you're just like stressing out, pulling your hair out. And then sometimes and also sometimes you only need a couple of hours. It's, just time out. So I think just allowing yourself, or just, having a hot water bottle strapped to you for like 14 hours of a day. also a very good
Yeah,
choice.
that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, like getting perspective and saying, this is just work. Because
Yeah.
it's so easy to get. Also, it's very competitive sometimes. I mean, especially I think when you start out, it can be you feel like, you have to live up to the, God knows what expectation
totally.
that you think people have of, talking to myself here, but.
Yeah, and when I was younger, 100%, like just, I mean, working all the hours, like to get something done, working through pain, like not stopping, working through the weekend, like everything that we all have done or are doing, I'm sure. And then, I think just reaching a point where I'm like, my body actually can't cope with that level of stress anymore. I think that's the difference. And just being really mindful of not getting into that state if I can help it.
Yeah, because I think once you kind of analyze on the endometriosis from a body inflammation, stress can stress is bad for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's
of course.
bad for everything, but you can clearly see a cause and effect, even on a physical point of view, like the fatigue and the feeling tired and feeling like actually like you're on the edge of a cliff, and you're like, that's probably not right.
Yeah, just on the edge of a cliff in a wheelbarrow with someone pushing me off.
That's not
no,
right.
it does.
I was looking for something else.
Yeah, when you just like dunked your own head under the bath. It's basically trying not to get to that extreme point. I think, but I think, but it is looking at things through the lens of inflammation, because once you know that, you can't unknow it, and then even just the physical posture that we have to hold all day, like hunched over like little creeps, like over a Cintiq or a laptop, and you just like that in itself, like the tension is crazy. But my shoulder, I don't even know what my shoulders feel like anymore. They're just like solid mass. So I think I think it's just things like that where you're like, oh yeah, I should try and help myself a bit with this, and I think I try to keep things a little bit more in balance throughout the month. But it's taken like having like thousands of awful periods to actually action that. I think like I'm not so good at. I kind of have to be really pushed to my limit to be like, okay, I'm going to start doing some yoga, or I'm going to start whatever it is. Changing my diet. Or
talking about diet, how's your diet?
This is something I've only really just found out about in the last year, I'd say. Like,
same.
Again, linked with inflammation, linked with hormones. And I don't have a perfect diet by any means. I have a crazy sweet tooth, but I think, and obviously sugar is probably one of the worst things you can be consuming, but I'm also like, you gotta have some joy. Otherwise, what's the point?
So you do have a sweet tooth, or you don't have?
I do have a sweet tooth. So that's like problematic for me. But I think even just being like, I've definitely like started bringing things into my diet. I just researching, like pulses, nuts, seeds, anything that is like gonna bring inflammation down, and like anti-inflammatory foods basically. And I don't really buy anything packaged anymore. Like, so I really try to make everything from scratch, so there's no like extra anything in my food. And and then with sweet stuff, I do eat sweet stuff, but I think because I'm more aware, like whereas before I'd just been like, biscuits, packet of biscuits, like donut, whatever, like cake. And then whereas now I'm like, okay, I need to kind of keep an eye on that number for many reasons, probably. Diet is so linked to hormones, and I just think it's I'd like to go and see a proper dietitian at some point.
Because I remember once we were talking about kind of the GP system. How would you structure for someone that has endometriosis, or thinks that they have endometriosis, what should be the steps when you go to the GP?
I think, I mean, I'm still figuring that out for myself, I think, but I think I feel like having your hormones tested is a big thing, or being referred to like a hormone specialist, not which I think is different from a gynecologist, I think maybe, but and yeah, I guess anything to do with a dietitian. I think those are the two places that I would start now, for sure. Because yeah, essentially, I guess you're trying to get your hormones into a more base level neutral space, right? Because over the years they've just kind of amped up and up and up and up into levels that aren't good. So I think that's where I would start. But yeah, what about you? What would you say?
Same. I think to me, like that was 2 years after 2 years after getting diagnosed that I learned about the diet. And I don't do a lot of research, or I do it on the wrong things. I'm very, my mind just sticks to a lot of things that I search something and then I end up researching something else. But that's not a justification. I never researched, can I do a diet? I kind of cut off gluten a long time ago because I noticed that it was bad.
Yeah, gluten's a big one.
Yeah, also my mom owns a pasta shop. So I ate gluten my entire life, every day.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it was good.
Well, you're Italian. Like that's.
I know.
Oh man, that is a hard thing to cut out if you're Italian.
Yeah, but you know what? Like I surprised myself because I don't miss pizza.
Really?
I don't know, what makes me a bad Italian?
What did you do about gluten? Would you rate gluten-free pasta?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Can I name? People gonna. Yeah, there's pasta rummo, the gluten-free version.
Oh yeah.
I love it because it's basically like normal pasta.
Same.
And red lentil pasta also, it's really good.
Oh yeah. All right, there's some hot tips.
But yeah, no, me too, like kind of diet and hormones for sure. Step number one, like there should be support with endocrinologists doing hormonal tests. I did one, but just it was something related to fertility. And to me, it felt a bit funny to do I wanted to do it, but at the same time, when I was doing it, I was like, wait, should I not do a test for like general hormones, sexual hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and others before I do whatever test about fertility? And probably a psychologist, I would.
Oh yeah, that's a real good. I think having support is hugely important. I think as well, when you've had this for years, you normalize what you go through every month so much. And I'd say it's only in the last year that I've started actually taking it as seriously as I should in terms of planning. Like I just don't plan anything now on like the first 3 or 4 days of my period because I'll just end up cancelling those plans, which causes me more anxiety and stress. And then so I think for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I do have this thing that's, that I have to live with and take into consideration. So yeah, I think I'm just taking it all a bit more seriously now in a way, or like not even taking it seriously, but maybe just allowing myself, I think, to accept that I have this thing and it impacts my life, rather than try and act like I don't have it, or I should. It's the should thing, right? Like I should just be pushing through, or like, oh, I'm sure I can, just take loads of ibuprofen and it'll be all right. Like, rather than thinking, what I need in this moment is to like, my body needs to like rest. I need to eat well and not have any stress or any added stress, if possible, put on my body during these few days. And I think I just opt for making my life as easy as possible. So if I have to go somewhere, I'll just get an Uber. Like I'll do the thing for those few days that make my life just a little bit easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a big connection between not pushing through certain situations and kind of allowing yourself to be vulnerable for the
Totally.
sake of making your life a little bit easier.
Yeah. Even with partners, you're kind of like, oh yeah, like I have to accept that I have to, you know, I need to rely on them a bit more. Like, we have a dog, and those few days are really difficult for me to walk the dog. And yeah, they're just normal house stuff that you can't really do in the same way. And that doesn't make you feel good, because you're sort of relying on someone a little bit more, and that's kind of vulnerable making. So yeah, there's all these things that I just don't think, aside from like the physical pain and all of that they all add up and become part of the disease, I guess.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I struggle with that stuff too, like, for walking the dogs, also not doing anything around the house for 3 days,
It's hard.
making a mess and not basically tidying after myself.
Yeah.
Go
just throwing food and plates on the floor and then leaving the room.
like a slug.
But yeah, it's tricky.
Why do you think is that? Like, why do you think like there's some sort of connection between that and the fact that, in general, there's a bit of a mistrust around women's health, or like a lack of recognition of what endometriosis is, and if you treat it like a body inflammation problem, and how wide range the problems are, because it's not only when you have your period, and it's not only around your pelvic area, it's around your body. The migraine is connected, and body pain is connected. And I think when you realize that, you can be a bit kinder to yourself. Because if no one tells you that, how do you make that connection?
I think that's exactly it. I think the one thing I did get from the specialist as well is learning that right shoulder pain, specifically on the right, is really connected to endometriosis as well. And I always get like terrible pain in my shoulder, which obviously leads to neck pain, which then leads to more headaches. So it's all, and you do feel it everywhere. It's not just like I get really faint. So all these different things. But I think it is exactly what you just said. I think it's because for however many years, I feel like it's quite a dangerous thing that we lump it into periods in a way. I think there's such a strong association to it being something to do with your periods, that I think like from a societal point of view, we're programmed from such a young age to be like, oh, you've just got like a bad period, like, blah, 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 blah. And of course, men don't experience it. So we have the thing of, the classic thing of like, when it seems that when men, it's not an experience of a guy, there's less research, etc., etc. So I think it's just I think a whole reframing of it needs to happen for people to give themselves a little bit more compassion. I think we lack self-compassion because I don't know, it shouldn't make a difference whether it's connected to periods or not, but I think it's so much bigger than periods, as you say, and it affects people all month, some people all month long. And I think that's the problem. Like I think that we need like a new, I don't know, a new way of describing it in a way. I don't know. It's like, because if someone had like ME or something, and they were like, right, I can't do this, so I can't do this, we would just accept it. If someone had a broken leg, they were like, we can't do this, we would sort of say, yeah, of course you can't. And I think because it's entirely invisible, I think that's what also makes it very hard, because it comes down to you having to vocalize what's wrong. And I think that's kind of hard sometimes. And I don't know, that's very vulnerable making. And again, I think we're slightly programmed to be like, no, everything's fine. Just crack on. Like, no problem. Like,
yeah, that's true.
And just push through. We're kind of told, yeah, just push through. It's fine. And I think that's why people end up in really dire situations, because, you know, really we should, and I think it does make it that much harder, speaking from experience, to just be like, oh yeah, actually, I accept that I have this, and I accept that I need to do X, Y, and Z every month, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I remember one time you said, I think you said, I'm sorry if you didn't say this, but...
Oh God, what is it going to be?
You said something like, pain is not the end of endometriosis. I think you said that.
Cool, let's just say that.
But if you didn't say that, I'm sorry. But I really like that, because what?
No, you're probably right. My memory is like doesn't really exist anymore.
But yeah, no, in relation to what you were saying, it's true, because pain, it's not the end of endo. Like, there's so much more, and there's such a lack of compassion. I was wondering if, as it happened to you, to like end to ER. Is that the name? ER, like the emergency.
Yeah. I've had like 2 or 3 times where I've ended up in A&E, and because the pain just got so bad that I'm like, what's happening here? And every time I've kind of gone in, well, I went in once and I had a really lovely guy who, his sister happened to have endometriosis, so it was a doctor who just happened to understand what it was, and he was very empathic, but he basically checked me over and then was like, there's nothing obviously wrong, so there's nothing we can do. And that was kind of my experience every single time. The last time I went, they told me just to take paracetamol, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's not great advice. So yeah, I think again, it's just people don't really know how to deal with it or what's going on.
Yeah, and also I wonder if there's actually, they discovered endometriosis in the 800s, I think. I thought they discovered it in the 60s for some reason, because I thought it must be recent, but no, it was discovered a long time ago.
Wow, so there's literally no excuse.
Yeah, there's no excuse. And yeah, there's still so many medical professionals that don't know, and I think the worst thing is that it can really take like different forms in different people. It's all connected to our periods, and we all have different periods. And also endometriosis can be very difficult to detect because it can have different colors.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's a big part of the problem with it, is that there's such a spectrum of how different people experience it, like you say, just like periods. And I think I think that's a big part of the problem with diagnosing it and then managing it, because it really is a case of like not one size fits all kind of, that's why I think it's very frustrating when, and I understand that makes it very complicated, like for doctors to know how to deal with it. But I think, just like we're saying, on a base level, I think treating it from an inflammation point of view, I think rather than just jumping straight into like the pill, which seems to be the kind of go-to thing, I think even just having a little bit more knowledge around it would really help people when they go in. And just from a hormone point of view, like hormones are crazy and they impact people to really, really extreme degrees that isn't taken seriously, and that just, to me as well, I'm like, what? That is it's a bigger conversation that's not really happening, or it's only just starting to happen. And yeah, I think hormones are wildly underestimated, how they impact women, big time.
Definitely. There's a lot of conversations that are not common, like, I don't know, menopause, perimenopause, like there's not
Totally.
enough knowledge. And when you suddenly go through something like that and you're like, what the fuck is happening? There's no,
it's scary.
you know, I had no idea, and I probably should have, I don't know. But I didn't really know anything about estrogen or progesterone.
I still don't really
Nothing.
know. Like I don't know what I'm high in or low in, like, which is crazy. Like I should know that information at this point. And again, if I knew that information, it would probably inform so much of my diet. It would inform like
So
exercise.
much.
It would have an impact, you know, or even taking extra, having
Yeah.
patches, having
Yeah.
extra hormone, you know, where I'm high or low, to sort of try and balance things out a bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think on a base level, I feel like whilst the pill can be super successful for people and is certainly an option and a good option for loads of peeps, but I feel like it's sort of also slightly this thing of putting like a band-aid on something rather than like understanding the root cause. And I think that's the
Definitely.
missing link of information. Like, but why is this happening to this, you know, what is going on inside my body basically with my hormones? And yeah, for me personally, that's what I want to try and understand better.
Yeah, me too. I stopped the pill a few months ago, and this time, and I took it for a couple of years, never took it for contraceptive reasons. I only took it for a period to like suspend my period, and I hated it. It was a relief for a moment not to have my period, but it's very strange because you realize that I would still be in pain. I would still have the pain. The pain doesn't go away completely, and that's when it kind of, for me at least, it freaked me out because it felt like there was something cooking, and I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, and your body's not actually releasing it then either. Like it's, and I think, yeah, because I've spoken to quite a few people on the pill, and then they're saying that it doesn't necessarily. They're still having the same like peaks of anxiety. They're almost going through the same cycle of kind of emotional ups and downs, and like you say, like even having pain, but they're just not. They're just obviously the thing that they're not having is like an incredibly heavy period or period full stop. So that is like one thing that's taken out of the equation, but the pill isn't really the answer to quite a lot of the symptoms that come.
Yeah.
I mean, from people that I've spoken to, I'm sure for some people it works super well. But
yes,
yeah.
no, for sure. Like I think it exists and it's good, and I think that it shouldn't be the. I spoke to some friends that were offered the pill before they even had an official diagnosis.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened to me as well, I think. And the thing is, I think the pill should be in the mix. It should be like an option, but it shouldn't be like the only option. I think that's what makes me despair a bit. Because you're like, if you don't want to take the pill, to be honest, I think that's what's come up for me over the years. It feels like I'm not given any information, so I hit a brick wall, and that is really demotivating. Like there's like to come out of the doctors and be like, well, basically you got this thing and it sucks and there's nothing you can do about it. Like this, it just makes you feel depressed basically. And I think being told that you either have an operation or go on the pill, to me, that feels like a very limited
range of options for sure. Yeah. Especially when you don't have like an informed decision to make, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. You're making a decision about taking something for something that you don't know. So I think there needs to be more information put back in the patient's hand, and then where you're like, look, this is what your hormones are doing, you know, and you could start by trying to adjust your diet and trying this and trying that and see if we're like, or even explaining like, this is where we ideally like your hormones to be, like this is, and then like, I just think that information isn't there, you know. I know so complicated with like free healthcare and things, and there's all these things that funnel into that. But yeah, I think it does seem that like women's healthcare around this stuff and hormones, it's just like wildly like under.
Yeah, I feel like there's this aura of seeing it as hysteric a little bit.
Oh,
You know,
totally.
when your hormones are like acting out and there's not an understanding of what is happening, it's still you get the feeling of like, I shouldn't be acting like this, but
yeah, because you're like but it's literally out of your control, and I think it's because there's like so much, there's like almost like a humor attached to women on their period, right? Like there's like, oh yeah, she's on a period, like I don't know, and it really like sort of diminishes the experience of
oh my
like
God, so much.
And like not in a way, it's like, of course, like it's not like anyone with endometriosis like humorless about this stuff. It's like, you know, I can definitely be like, oh my God, I am literally acting like like I've gone into another realm here. Like I know it's my hormones, but like it doesn't. I think because there is this association of women being overly emotional or overly this or overly that, and then this is directly feeding into that in a way, or like it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Just like you do get some crazy things. Like I said to you, like from a doctor's point of view, like someone I went to see once was like, well, you know, it probably is better if it's meant to get better if you have a baby, so maybe you should get pregnant. And I was like 27, and also I was like, first of all, you don't know whether I want children, you don't know anything about me, like you don't know how sensitive this topic is for me to talk about. And quite a weird bit of advice from a doctor, just to be like, go get pregnant, like it's like, okay. And then and then just like things like that where you're like, this doesn't really feel like what a mad solution. Like, I don't know, to
give to
also
as 27 years old that you didn't ask, like, do you want kids, by the way?
Just so weird, such a weird respect. And it's stuff like that where you just think this is fucking hopeless, like, and you just start to lose the will. I think you just start to think, oh my God, no one knows anything about this. And it does make you feel quite hopeless and out of control.
Yeah. And again, there's not much explanation of why having kids could help, but it doesn't help everyone.
It doesn't always work. No. Yeah, exactly. And also it can help for a bit, but then
and then it comes back.
Yeah, exactly. You know? So it's like, again, it's just, that's not a solution to a problem.
No, for sure. I remember when you told me this, I was like, not shocked, because everyone that I talked to seemed to have that moment with the doctor telling them, oh, you know what really helps? And you can
just knock out a couple of kids. You'll be absolutely
fine. It's insane. It's insane. And it kind of makes you a bit understand how, one, I think how the non-knowledge about endometriosis, to the point where, yes, kids are important, having kids if you want kids, but there's so much more about endometriosis that I feel like that should be talked about before you even get to the point of fertility.
Yeah, of course. Also, like the crazy thing is, endometriosis also impacts people's fertility in a negative way, and so to sort of tell someone to go and have a child is actually incredibly irresponsible, because like someone it often impacts someone's fertility in not a great way. So I kind of think it's just a nuts response, like it's a crazy response to like a problem.
Definitely. It should definitely be in, like you said earlier with the pill, it should be in the mix somewhere at some point of a woman's life. There should be of a person, you know, with a uterus life, there should be the conversation with the doctor about potentially the benefits of. There should be, but I think when the person asks for it.
Yeah, and I don't feel like it should be like handed to you like it's a prescription. Like it's like what like it's kind of irrelevant until you bring it up. I don't know. I feel like unless you're going down that route where you're talking about fertility, you're talking about having kids, I don't think that information should even be offered up, because I just think, again, like that couldn't have been further from my mind at that point. Like that, it didn't feel helpful to me whatsoever. Like it just felt like I was being fobbed off with yet more random information that didn't feel appropriate. To my personal situation and what was happening.
Do you find the medical system quite heteronormal?
So, yeah, very heteronormative. Yeah, I mean, even with that doctor, the conversation sort of carried on. She was like, I was like, oh man, I thought this conversation, I thought we'd done with this bit of the conversation. And then she was like, would you carry? I was like, wait, what? Like, and then I was like, no, oh no, that was it. She didn't even say that. I was like, if I did have kids, I wouldn't want to carry. My partner would carry. And like, I literally, there's like a good minute silence whilst like I watched her brain like just like wait, your partner's gonna carry a child? Like she just couldn't figure out in her mind. Yeah, it was literally like watching like little dots like really slowly joining up, and then she was like, and then I felt like her whole manner just changed. She like went into like a dark place, and I felt like she sort of treated me a bit differently after that. But that could be my own paranoia, projecting onto her. But like, yeah, I was like, again, it's like such a complex conversation. Even like the process of having a child, as a gay woman is like, it's not straightforward, and it's also like tens of thousands of pounds for most people. So again, it's just like such a nuts thing to throw out without like any thought. Like that's why to me I was like, this is not even remotely a solution. Like, yeah, this is nuts. So
no, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And and with the heteronormative thing, when I went to see a specialist, I had like a really weird interaction where he was like, and it's always men. Like for some reason, I'm always surprised. It's always men seem to be gynecologists, and he was examining me, and he made some he basically was like, oh, do you experience pain having sex? And I was like, well, no, but I don't actually experience that. But I'm like in a same-sex relationship, so I can only speak from that point of view, And then he was sort of using some fucking crazy spatula thing, like, and to examine me, and he was like, is that painful? And I was like, yeah, that is actually a bit painful. And it's like he took it so personally. He was like offended that like, and he actually like brought it up again like later, and my partner was there, and I was so glad she overheard the whole thing, because when you're like, is this in my head? Am I like interpreting this through my own lens? And then she was like, God, that was a bit weird. Like it was like he was offended that I found him examining me as a man painful, but could have pain-free sex with a woman. I was like, dude, this isn't about like your male ego at the moment. Can you just like not? Can you just like leave it for like 1 second? So yeah, I have had quite weird interactions with people, but
that is so strange. Like, please remove yourself from the picture of my health. Yeah,
totally.
My pain.
Exactly. And it's like you're already in such a vulnerable situation, like being examined. You don't need. I'm like, how am I reassuring you? Like in this moment, like what's happening here? So yeah, and I feel like I've heard lots of people have quite odd interactions with doctors and gynecologists over the years about this stuff. But
yeah, for sure.
Good times.
Good times. Good memories again.
Yeah.
How do you? So we talked about advocating for yourself, and well, first of all, I wanted to ask, like, how's your window of normality a month?
Yeah, I mean, I have quite a short cycle. Like I kind of have a period every 3 weeks, so I have a good week and a half I feel normal. And then I'd say it kind of varies from, I'd say I'm luckier than a lot of people, because I'd say probably two weeks of the month where I feel like normal.
Fine.
But yeah.
That's still like a lot of time that you spend not feeling fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. It's like a week build up. And so, and oh yeah, another thing that's started happening to me as I've gotten older is I've started getting pain, like period pain, 2 or 3 days before I actually come on my period. So the amount of time that I'm actually in pain seems to have got even longer now. It's quite annoying.
Yeah, that happens to me too. Like before I
Yeah.
start bleeding.
Yeah, and you're like, come on already, like,
Yeah.
just what's happening?
Come out.
What's happening? Yeah, exactly. And I think you're more like you're tensing and holding on, the more like it can take like longer. I think
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I think it's very strange because again, it's this it's not just when you have your period. It's not just that.
No, God,
5 days.
No.
I don't know how how long my
Yeah,
period changes every month.
Yeah, I kind of have a 7-day period, and I'd say like a good 5 to 7 day lead in where my emotional state and anxiety is like going all over the place.
Yeah. And I think, when you go through that those ups and downs that you described earlier, and having like anxiety, it can be hard now to having to advocate for yourself, going to doctors and kind of like fighting for your rights.
Yeah, because it's tiring, and you just, if you're already spending half the month, in pain, having, challenges with your emotions, or, whatever's going on, I think, you don't come up the other side of your period. You're like, well, can't wait to get to the doctors and like start researching. You're like, thanks, fuck, I feel all right for the next two weeks. You're not, you just sort of want to forget about that and be like,
be okay.
You're just like, just like a little bit of time feeling normal would be awesome. And you're already losing, so like it already takes up so much time that I sort of resent spending even more time, like
like kind of like negativity, the whole negativity of like thinking about it, having to
totally and the thing that's really hard about it, because there's so little information from your GP, it is kind of on you to research and find this stuff out for yourself. And so that's kind of what sucks about the whole thing, because it adds this added layer of anxiety, I would say, just through not knowing how to deal with it, or how to ease your symptoms, or whatever it is.
Because at least I think if there was more guidance, there would be a bit more of like I guess like you feel more guided, you feel more secure, you feel like you're doing the right thing, at least.
And that in itself is it sort of gets rid of a bit of anxiety, I think.
Exactly. I remember like when I got diagnosed, I was told my fertility was compromised. That was the first thing that was said to me, and I remember thinking, I don't care. Like at this moment, I don't care. It's sad, but I don't care. Also, I don't think it's true. And there was nothing else. And I remember like coming out of the doctor's room and thinking, these like overwhelming anxiety of like, what is this? Like what now? Am I going to have to go online and research this? Am I going to have to go to a specialist? And God knows when that is going to be, because, sometimes it takes months to book an appointment. And
totally,
like you just have this sense of like, what is going on in my body, and why cannot someone sit down with me and say, this is happening? and
Yeah.
this is happening this moment of the month. Because it's so much easier when you kind of connect the dots together with what's happening throughout the months, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why I'm feeling like this and that. It's, it does help with the anxiety a little bit, at least for me.
Yeah, because I think ultimately rather than fighting something, you're ultimately leaning into what your body is going to do, whether you want it to or not. That's what's happening.
Exactly.
And I think that's what I've learned to do now, to like lean into like, okay, well, I know that I have like crazy fatigue on these days, so I'm just gonna not walk the dog, not exercise, like take it as easy as much as possible, depending on work. And then, yeah, I know that these days, and like the thing is, there are like, I think for anyone with hormones, I think just learning your own patterns of hormones, whether you've got endometriosis or not, is really helpful. And that's kind of what we should be taught in school, like, to understand our hormones and what they're doing. And how many people do I speak to in their 30s and 40s that still don't understand what the hormones are doing? And I certainly don't. And yeah, the only thing I have to go on now is like little things that like impact my work or creativity or whatever, or physical stuff. And I think, yeah, it's kind of crazy that I'm making my own patterns, but I don't actually know what's oh my God, why can't I say that? You know what I mean?
I know.
Actually happening in your body.
Yes.
Physiologically, there you go.
Physiologically.
Yeah, actually happening. But I know the cues. Like I know that, like I have really weird stuff where I'm like there's like a few days just before I come on my period where I find it really easy to come up with ideas. I feel really creative, and I can just draw really easily. And then as soon as I'm on my period, I literally can't draw for shit. Like it's like I just can't draw anything. And I've learned now. I'm like, right, storyboard, like come up with the ideas on these days. Or like I know that I'll have really good focus on, or because everything's moving much slower on my period, I'm like really good at doing like focused things. And then so it's like I'm kind of creating these little like routines within my kind of period. But then it's difficult because it obviously it changes all the time and it's still changing. But yeah, just things that I'm like, okay, yeah, I clock when this is happening now, and try and lean it into those moments, whatever that is.
Yeah, but I think also like the what you say, like leaning into those moments and kind of accepting that, oh yeah, this feels good in this moment. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna lean in and do this particular thing within the animation, the animation package, and it might not happen again, but in the end, it's okay. Like next time, it can be something else. Like you said, there's things that I love cleanup when I'm on my period.
Yes, same.
Right?
Because it's really focused. It's quite slow. It's quite meditative. Like, yeah, it's anything, or like weirdly, like admin stuff I find on my period. I'm like, I can really do admin because it's like, it's basically anything that's not super creative.
Yeah.
I feel like I can do. And then whereas just before I feel more creative and like I've got more energy. I have a surge of energy and then I'm like, douche. So, but yeah, anything, yeah, cleanup is really good on your period.
Otherwise, I hate it. Like I swear, like if you sit me down, no, I do it. I do it. It's okay. But I really struggle to sit down and do it for a long time because I'm hyperactive. I start looking around. I fidget with my emails. I look at my phone. But if my energy level drops and I'm really fatigued, then cleanup is perfect because I don't have to think. I do end up making shit tons of mistakes. So the day after, I'm like,
perfect.
But not like, if clients are listening. No, not on client.
Yeah. Basically, guys, I'm really shit at my job for 2 weeks of the month, but the other 2 weeks, I got it. Really got it down.
Yeah. It's hard though. With creativity, I think it's, it's complicated because you have to feed into it, but there's days that you cannot just, for the love of God, have an idea. or
yeah, I think that's just true of being creative. I think like hormones or no hormones, it's just like I have got nothing going.
Nothing to give. I'm empty.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to someone that went through what you went through?
I think I really think what I've kind of probably just saying what I've said really just, I think the nutritionist thing, understanding what's happening in your body, seeing a specialist if you can, like a hormone specialist. I really think working from the ground up in a way in order to sort of treat things and just like mad compassion. I really think compassion for yourself is just so important because it's a really intense thing to be going through. And I think that's one thing I would say. Just be kind and gentle to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I wish I knew that earlier. And then my last question, not second to last question, is because you're a creative. Well, also if you weren't, but if you had to describe endometriosis, how would you describe it?
Oh man, I describe it as like a moose.
A moose.
A moose on like an inflatable like water slide thing, just ricocheting back and forth against the sides whilst getting soaked, and then just when you get to the bottom, like just something else just falls on you. That's how it feels. Is that what you mean? Is that what you're after?
I love that. I think we should make an animation about that.
Yeah. I feel like it's just like a constant being pushed and pulled, and there's just always something.
It sounds very chaotic.
Yeah, it's chaotic. It's absolutely chaotic.
And my last question is, if you have any sources of information that helped you through the years, like books or...
Yeah, I've got a really good book called Heal Endo.
Mm-hmm.
That's been really good to read, and it's kind of quite easy to read. It's not like loads of jargon. It's kind of written in a nice way. And I think that talks a lot about inflammation and nutrition and why it's important as well, like what is actually happening in your body. What else? God, it's embarrassing. I actually have embarrassingly small amount. You'd think I'd have collected something across 15 years under one book.
No.
But yeah, I feel like that's been the main thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't even have one book, so that's more. Now I've got a book. I'm gonna read.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good one. Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Oh, thanks for that.
Thank you.
It's been so nice talking to you.
It's been nice. It's been so nice talking to you about this stuff. It was due to have a chat about.
Yeah. It's great. It's amazing you're doing this as well. More conversations, please.
Yes, for sure.
And more information. I think.
And more information. Yes, for sure. And I don't know if it happened to you too, but like ever since I started talking to people, it comes a point where you start opening up and you realize that you're not alone in what you're feeling. And
I think that's it as well. And I feel like in recent years I've started seeing people sharing more on Instagram, especially creative people I follow, saying, "Oh, I have and I had no idea how many people I knew that had endometriosis." So, I think even knowing that it's reassuring.
Yes.
In a way. I mean, it's depressing, but it's reassuring.
No, I completely. You don't want anyone that having endometriosis. Like you don't want them to go through that. But it's good to know because you're like, wow, I had no idea.
And also, it's like more common than I realized. I think that's what I've come to realize as well, which is also why it's bad. There's not more research, but.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's so common. Like so many people have it.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like it's, it makes it even worse that we know so little, and also that we're kind of pushed not to talk to each other. I think
there's
this a bit stigma of like not talking about it. And I think that's why it's good to have a chat. And
that's amazing, dude.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and thank you, Hanna, for joining us. Cramps and Chaos is brought to you by yours truly. Don't forget to like and share, subscribe to the Cramps and Chaos channel if you're listening on YouTube, or follow the Spotify page if you're a Spotifyer. Bye bye!